good morning, good morning. Good morning to all of you. It's good to see you here. We're now live on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Good morning, Stella Mooring. How are you, my darling? It's good to see you. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Mother, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning, my darlings. It is Thursday, August 7th. 2025. I opened up my memories this morning and realized that on this day in 2018, my friend Denise and I had gotten in our cars and traveled across the country. For the first time, we had to convince our husbands, who were like, "Are you crazy?" We promised them, that we would fly back home. We would only drive across to Seattle, Washington, and then we would fly back home. That car was too filled with stuff. We're like, there's no way we're going to put all this stuff on a plane. And so we drive back home. And that first trip, we took 11 days. We were there for 11 days. The second, third, fourth, and fifth trips, we were gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We had ourselves a good old time. And what I learned in those trips, because I said this to Denise recently, we were talking about this. No one thought we could do it. We ran into so many people who said, "You're traveling by yourself. Where is your husbands? Where are your husbands? Your husbands let you." Our husbands, I have to be transparent in saying, we're very candid in saying, "We don't want you to do this. We don't know if you're going to be safe." By the third trip, they were like, "When are you going?" "When are you leaving?" Because they understood that we were doing this responsibly. And so we had a great time. We saw so many people. We met Native Americans. We took a boat over to the Fusky Island. We saw, oh my God, Geechee people. We went up to Maine and went over to Canada and saw whales and came back down and, went to Mile Zero in Key West with Margaret and Carol Ann and just had ourselves a wonderful, wonderful time. We learned so many lessons. And out of that came a bunch of people who said, "Andrea, how can we drive across the country?" So I reposted something where we talked about you can't just drive across the country with any old body. You have to know who you're traveling with. Denise understands I'm a road runner. I love to drive. That first trip we took, I drove 1,700 miles in a day and a half. And everybody kept saying that's not possible. But I did it, right? And I never did that again, though. In trips 2, 3, 4, and 5, I literally would stop myself between 600 to 900 miles a day. Denise kept, 600 because I sundown, wake up really early in the morning, and by 6 o'clock, I'm tired, exhausted. So travel with people that you know and love with. You can't have somebody in the car with you that's incessantly talking. You have to know when to stop talking. You have to know when to turn on your we listen to a lot of books online. We listen to a lot of podcasts. We had conversations about things we wouldn't ordinarily talk about. I learned more about Denise. She learned more about me in that short period of time. Then we engaged and included Nia Mal, who was from South Sudan. And it was on one of those trips to Louisiana. She said, I've lived here in this, came from a war-torn country. I'm tired. I don't, the winters are wearing me out. I want to go back home. And so we talked about it. And by November, she was gone. She's now living in Ghana, but she's traveled back and forth to come and especially work with me when I would be in LA, covering the film festivals or the red carpet for the BET, not BET, oh God, not BET. Lord have mercy, NAACP Image Awards. And so we've done so much work over time, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm telling you all, and all it required was a little bit of courage. We didn't have hotels set aside. When we were ready to stop, Denise would call a hotel chain and say, "We'd like to stop for the night." And that's what we did each and every night. And so I when I added it up, I've driven almost 50,000 miles back and forth, round and round over this country, got to meet and see all kinds of people and had all kinds of opportunities opened up. Someone from PBS in 2023 stopped me. She said, "We've been watching you go across the country. We'd like you to put this in the form of a documentary, try to pull it together." So that's not going to be an easy thing to do. We've started collecting, curating the pictures and the videos. And so we're working through all of that. right now. It's going to take a little while, so you may not see this for a few years yet because we went everywhere. We ran into bears last year when we traveled. We grabbed Margaret, took her with us because she wanted to see all these things. I was going to the redwood forest. She wanted to go across the Golden State Bridge. She wanted to. So with this last year, we drove over to Oregon, drove down to California, right? And then drove through Death Valley and came right on back. It was the most enlightening experience ever. You have to be with someone that loves to drive. I am that person. So for the most part, when Margaret joined me, she drove about 80 miles one time, and then Nehemiah would help me drive. But other than that, I did all the driving back and forth for all the trips. Today is our Love Is segment. We have always kept it that way. Cherie Syfax is in Martha's Vineyard right now. And so we're pivoting because, she can't, where she is, she can't find a quiet space to have dialogue with me. So we are going to have good old David Alexander Jenkins join us. We're going to cover the news. We're going to cover some love segments. We're going to cover all. Good morning, my darling. How
Good
are
morning. Good
you? Now,
morning.
you all are accustomed to seeing David on Mondays. He began joining me on Mondays months ago to talk about all the things that are going on in the country and the world. And so, David, you're just going to pivot with me. Good morning. Let me say hello to the people over here because, when they see you and your fabulous hair, it's
It's Monday.
so, Andre, good morning, Andre, Beatrice, Bobby, Shaquilla, too, Marguerite. I see all of you here. Monica. And thank you again, Marguerite. I called Marguerite yesterday to ask her for some advice. So I try not to run off of my own emotions, especially after I've thought things through. Good morning, Jasenia, Beatrice, all of you. So we're going to do the Love Is segment with David. We're going to cover some of that. But David, I wanted to read something to you that I saw and let us discuss. Shall we?
Yes, yes.
This was written by the Business Insider by John Lamparski and the Getty Image. I'm sorry, John Lamparski is the person that put up the image. This was written by businessinsider.com. Are you listening, David? I need you to dissect. It is not every day that a CEO's 2,500 word response to an employee engagement survey goes viral, but that's exactly what happened last weekend after AT&T CEO John Stankey sent a memo to his managers that my colleagues Dominic Reuter and Catherine Lee published for the entire internet to see. Upon first reading it, I laughed at just how blunt Stankey was in his admonishment of his staff, who apparently complained in the company survey. Here goes another executive lashing out at frustrated employees, I thought. But the more times I read it, the more I saw something deeper. Perhaps the clearest attempt yet by a major CEO to rewrite the terms of the workplace in contemporary corporate America. Last year, in an essay about the changing relationships between employers and employees, I argued that decades of layoffs, slash benefits, and hardline management killed off our long-held norms around workplace loyalty. But I had never heard the head of a large corporation actually admit that. Now, here was Stanky, the CEO of a 140-year-old company that once epitomized corporate loyalty, declaring the death of loyalty himself. Some of you may have started your tour with this company expecting an employment deal rooted in loyalty, he wrote. We have consciously shifted away from some of these elements. That employment deal Starkey reference is known by another name in organizational psychology, the psychological contract. As I wrote last year, it's the set of things that employers and employees believe they owe each other and are owed in return. Usually, these beliefs go unsaid. They're more inferred by the totality of a company's culture. What's unusual about Stanky's note is that he goes on at length making the implicit explicit, telling employees what they're right to expect from the company and what they aren't. Stanky says his workers deserve a transparent career path, a functional office, and the proper tools to do their job. But he said they're wrong to expect promotions based on tenure, the flexibility to work from home, and something about conformance that I can't decipher for the life of me. Most of all, he says, don't expect loyalty.
So,
Right.
the silence is kept for a space. I want to say that there is a permeating atmosphere of a lack of class that exists now in C-suite jobs. Let me break that down. It used to be that one had to have a particular education from a particular
Mhm.
level of schools. And
Mhm.
those schools, I want to be very clear, are not schools
Mhm.
that educate people differently about how
Mhm.
they do a task, but they're schools that educate people differently about how they move and operate, i.e., if you go to King's College, Oxford, Penn, something, what you're being taught at that school, which is different from going to LaSalle or another school, is you're being taught organizational leadership skills for ownership class. That is very different from
Mhm.
organizational skills for doing, for making, for manufacturing. So most colleges, universities, educational standpoints, testing, it's set up to teach you how to do a skill, execute the skill, and be rewarded for the skill. You learn how to be compliant. You learn how to say, thank you, may I have another, and where's the small bit of food that's going to allow me to continue forward. If you go to a school which is training you for leadership, it's training you to think obtusely outside the box, not for compliance, but for survival, and also for taking something from one place to another in a sort of ruling government like way.
Mhm.
When people say to me, why should send my child to one school or another? I always say socialization because
Mhm.
you're being socialized around a group of people. And that brings me to my current point, which is that there is a lack of socialization happening because the ruling class has come from a people who have no idea about the thing called manners. They don't understand why one should protect the people that work for them. They
Mhm.
haven't ever grown up with people working for them. They don't
Mhm.
live with a staff of people who need to be cared for, who need to be tended to, who need to have their things like medical bills and childcare and food
Mhm.
provided. They
Mhm.
come from a very greedy, very selfish standpoint of I built myself into this role. And if I did that, then why should you not too? They don't understand that upon the legs in which they stand are the reason why they are tall. And so they are willing to cut off the leg thinking that they'll just float. It is not until the legs are gone that they realize that they too will come tumbling to the ground. So,
Mhm.
this response from this CEO is not new. We hear this response from CEOs all of the time in today's America, out of a place where the CEOs are not people who went to school to learn how to govern people. They did
Mhm.
not go to places where they were socialized by other
Mhm.
people of means, where they
Mhm.
came from a room which understood staff or
Mhm.
loyalty or family
Mhm.
dynamic within a house of mixed houses, right?
Mhm.
That is new to them. And so they behave from whence they came.
Listen to this, David. Stanky went on in his memo in his attempt to spell out these expectations. This shift from what he calls a familial culture that takes care of its employees to a market based one has been going on since the 1980s. Absolutely correct. The days of lifetime job security and pensions are long gone, but CEOs have rarely acknowledged the change because they've gotten a lot of hard work out of their staff who still believe they'll be taken care of in return. At least Stanky is clear. He won't even pretend to be loyal to his workers. The first step to preparing the broken psychological contract in today's workplace is having an open conversation about what those new expectations exactly are. More and more CEOs are adapting the strategy of management by fear, emboldened by a white collar recession that leaves disgruntled workers few places to go.
Where have we seen this before?
My God, on today. The problem, though, is that Stanky's memo isn't so much of a conversation as it is a rapid fire dictation of terms. He offers virtually no room for negotiation, dismissing his dissatisfied employees for lamenting disruption and telling them your professional expectations might be misaligned with the strategic direction of the company. In other words, get out.
And they will. I think the thing that is what there is a term for this, but to bite off one nose to spite their face. The thing, Stinky, is that the millennials and the Y2Kers and all those sorts of people who are younger than perhaps the class who is ruling right now don't understand is that the millennial is not moved to go to work in a place which is hostile. In fact, the millennial has told you it is willing to make no money instead of making some money, which still does not pay the bill. They're willing to quit entirely and go sit in a coffee shop and figure it out over social media posts where they might make just as much money
if not
talking
more.
about you stinky and talking
Yeah,
about your company
yeah.
stinky. So there is a misalignment. He's correct. There is a change in culture, but what he's wrong about is where that misalignment is. The truth is, in order to get work product out now, you have to be more loyal. You have to give the person doing the job more because the person sitting in the chair now is what we like to call the latte liberal, right? This is a person who does not have a burning fire inside of them that says, if I don't dig coal, I won't survive. They say, I could dig coal or I could read a book. Which one
Mhm,
is going to please me more today? And
mhm,
in that culture, in that shift, in that real change, I
mhm.
think it's very dangerous for any person in charge, one, to raise their voice, yell, scream, bark, and demand things from people. I think you realize that you are with upright without a paddle. My mother was a very powerful executive at Prudential. And one of the things that I learned from my mother, and really from her family and other people who were in great power positions, running state offices, and that's it, if you have to exercise your power, you do not have it.
Ekoromoshita. Words have not. Listen to this.
If you, yeah.
Listen, David, because you're making this sense. They said this hardline approach backfires in all sorts of ways. Even if the vast majority stay, here's the part: the people who leave are typically the highest performers. Second, the job market will eventually recover, at which point AT&T's risks a mass exodus. And most importantly, there's now decades of rigorous research showing how fear is a terrible way to get the work done from your employees. Faster work? Maybe, but it'll be sloppier, less creative, and ultimately less innovative at a time when companies desperately need their teams to stay ahead in the age of AI.
I want to add to that sentence also really shitty quality of work, right? So, pardon me, but really, I mean, what comes out of crap is crap. And so, if you have instilled fear into a person to do this work, what's going to come out is a product that nobody wants to purchase. You're going to have a lot of mistakes. You're going to be dealing with a lot of problems. You're going to have a lot of recalls. This all comes out of a bad way of governance. And so I wish that the people who were entering these roles could take a class on etiquette, could take a class on social grace, could take a class on humanities to understand why demoralizing people or screaming at people or shutting things down in such a way is only their own death, right? Because what you want to do is build a culture of trust. And that culture of trust allows someone to work on your behalf when you are sleeping. Instead, what you've done is you've only stood there with the whip. When you're going to exhaust yourself and they're going to be exhausted and everybody's going to fail, it's a really bad way. But again, to the point of if you have to use your power, you don't have it. Because if you really had power, you would have the trust and devotion of the people for which you oversaw. They would defend you at every turn.
And there's so many people who are what they call quiet quitting. They're still at the
Mhm.
job, barely performing. I've had so many conversations with people in different walks of life who say, I hate it here. I absolutely hate it here. So I'm doing the basic. So they're paying people who's just giving them the basic necessities in their work environment until they can find something else. It is insane. It is absolutely insane.
And we were talking about this just a little while ago. There's this synergy that could be happening, right? So we know that we have this housing crisis and this poverty crisis. Why do we not incentivize companies to take over these empty buildings and to house the people who work for them in the building, right? And there you have this loyalty that comes out of that. There you have this trust that's built out of that. Yes, not only am I providing the place in which you make your check, in which you do this good work, but I'm also providing you your home, right? I'm making sure that you're sheltered and fed and clothed and taken care of because I know that the best worker is a happy worker. You know, I grew up in a house that had a lot of people in it. And the happiest of those staff were the people who were well taken care of. And they're still there. My mother was in surgery, and I can't tell you the amount of people who poured in previous employees, previous house staff, previous this and the other, who just wanted to come and love on her in that moment because of the way in which the treatment and their experience of treatment had been when they were in employ. So
Yeah.
I think we cannot just forget what it means to love in every situation. If that means to nurture, to educate, to
Mhm.
uphold, to feed, um, those things have to come with us. into a world of professionalism. They cannot be left outside. And the very moment where the top breaks the order, the rest of the company fails.
Yeah.
It'll be very soon. I don't know who this company is, and maybe that can be shared or not, but
Mhm.
I imagine, and I will put my pen to writing on this, that it won't be more than 2 years before that company's gone.
It actually, are you talking about the one that I'm reading about now? It's been around for 140 years. It is AT&T. But
Oh,
what
they're
they're
suffering
saying is,
currently.
oh, absolutely. And you see it in the customer
They're
service, the
suffering
way people are
currently.
responding. Folks are frustrated. They're not getting paid well for
T-Mobile
that.
T-Mobile got 30% of their customers last year, and they're freaking out about what to do because they
Mhm,
put that 5 gig in the sky and this and the other. But if
mhm,
this is the company culture of who's working for you, AT&T may be
yeah,
gone.
yeah. And I think,
AT&T used to be run, by the way, as an example, when it was built, the structure was family for a very long
mhm,
time at the very top of the corporate
mhm,
structure. It was
mhm,
people who had invest in the culture who built the company. Now it's randos who get
mhm,
hired in to do the position, and you see a
yes,
big shift in the difference between
mhm,
legacy care
mhm,
and I'm here to make the 500,000, 3 million, 4 million, whatever
yeah.
this man was making per
Mhm,
year.
mhm. He says here that CEOs tend to copy each other, and executives from Meta's Mark Zuckerberg to Uber's Dara and Shopify's Tobias have all hinted in recent years that they're done trying to accommodate their employees. What makes Stanky's memo notable is that it could have come from any one of the CEOs atop our largest corporations today. If this is the direction corporate America is headed, that will make, I just said this, that will make work less enjoyable, motivating, and meaningful for the vast majority of us, which will mean our employees will get less inspired work from us. So they're bleeding money despite the fact that they think, that they should did change the psychological mindset. That would have alarmed the Stankies of the past, but maybe they think they don't need our inspired work, not when AI is doing more and more of the coding, writing, coordinating, monitoring, and analysis that happens inside their businesses anyway. The employees who were once their most prized asset, the thinking goes, feel more like dead weight now, which is probably why CEOs seem so comfortable with treating them with so little dignity and empathy. Baby.
I- I'm recalling right now the epic move from in-office work to at-home work that
Mhm,
happened pre-pandemic and into pandemic,
mhm,
and how companies were screaming, "We built these campuses. We have this and the other. People don't this and the other. You got to get back to work. Got to get to work." And it dawned on me that you behoove yourself to treat people that you've required to come back to the office
mhm,
well, so
mhm.
that they feel they want to go spend their money in the communities around them. They feel
Right.
a culture of love that they want to permeate and stay longer in the office and incentivize people to be there. It would behoove one not to be so cruel in their behavior, in their actions, in their notices,
Mhm.
because what you've told people is, because I don't care about you, you don't have to care about me.
Yes.
And the minute that that happens, people resign, they check out. They'll take your
Mhm.
$100,000 check for the next year, so long as they're not fired yet, and they'll do nothing. Because
Yeah.
what you're saying is, we have no loyalty to each other. So instead of me
Mhm.
feeling like I better work hard and sweat off because that way I can ensure my job security tomorrow, they know they have no job security. In
Yeah.
which case, they don't owe you overtime. They don't owe you any sort of measure of goodwill. They just make their check and go home.
Recently, a friend of mine, and we've been friends for a long, long time, a sister, called me and she said, I'm exhausted. She's a senior
Mhm.
vice president of a major corporation. She's made enough money where she has a lake house and three, four or five other properties around the country. And she's doing this and she's doing that. And she said to me, I just had a conversation with my husband about living a simpler life, selling off all of this stuff. She said, because the way things are going right now, having all of this, accruing all of this, and then being a part of sorority and being a part of the links and being a part of Jack and Jill. It's just wearing her the hell out. And I'm listening to the phone. We've been friends for a long time. I said, listen, I've always ascribed to the simple living of life because the things don't make us happy. Yes, you can achieve all those things, but then what? Right? I said, and we have to realize the thing we cannot buy is our health. No matter how much money we have, no matter how much wealth we have accrued. And she says, I also feel like the folks are coming for what we as Black people have attained and accrued over the years. So they're literally considering selling off. most of what they have and going to someplace like Jamaica and hanging the hell out. They're just like I'd rather live the simple life because they can see what's coming down the pike. This writer says, in a world where AI makes workforce smaller, the potential impact of each employee expands, and that ends up raising, not lowering, the stakes for attracting and retaining the very best people. So many of my friends and their children who graduated from college with bachelor's and master's, and black women have the most PhDs that I have ever seen in a long, long time, are being laid off. And then when the employers know they're going to come and try and find a job, they're rehiring them at 1/3 of what they are worth and 1/3 of what, because they realize the job market is saturated. Do you see the game, the shell game that's being played here?
Did you know? Did you know, says the University of Pennsylvania, says Cornell studies about AI and these big conferences that they're doing, that the first people to lose all of their jobs in the world of AI are the C suite people? Did you
Exactly.
know that it's the
Exactly.
lawyers and the doctors and the people with 6 degrees who are
Wow.
going first? That the last people to be removed because of AI will be the server at the table, will be the gas station attendant, will be the person who answers the phone. Because actually, there's a shift now that people say, I don't want to
Mhm.
talk on a phone to a person who's not human, but I'm
Mhm.
willing for the person who runs the human person to be a
Mhm.
machine. So all of this note, all of this fear, all this, those people better be careful, because those are the ones who will have no job, because their job is literally to administer a doctorate of law or standard and or right craft. So if I'm a
Mhm.
surgeon, I don't need you. I need the machine. I need a nurse who's going to deal with the patient, who's going to help the machine. I do not need the doctor. I don't
Mhm.
need the lawyer. The lawyer's job is to interpret what is on a piece of paper. Machine does that better. It's statistics, right? I don't need a mathematician. I don't need, and so all of these people who feel they can breathe down the neck of the little people are getting ready to find themselves in quite a quandary. Not in many years, in a few years. This conversation about universal income. Why do millennials feel so comfortable? Because they realize that you're going to have to pay off the student loans, just like you had to bail out the billionaires during the
Mhm.
banking crisis.
Mhm.
Just like Donald Trump has taken how many, different payouts for his bankruptcies, the government is going to have to pay out the bankruptcies of Americans. And
For
that means that when they realize in their statistic brains, which do work, that if
Mhm.
the mass of them sit down and do nothing, you're going to have to do something.
Mhm.
Um, this universal income stream comes not just for them, but for the entire operation. They
Mhm.
say bring on the machine because they know it's going to eliminate the C suite. They
Mhm.
know it's going to mean they'll have to go. So I think it's very unwise when people in corporate structures and tops of ladders come with these sorts of messages, particularly to the public, in their company. I just think that it's penny wise and dollar foolish.
Now you want to hear the irony of this? Stanky,
Mhm.
who is now the CEO of AT&T. You ready for this?
Mhm.
Stanky, he says, it was a Stanky was right to call it familial. It was a literally family for some, like the writer of this 1996 essay in the New York Times I stumbled upon. Not only was this guy a longtime AT&T employee who had risen from the ranks of a software testing temp, but he was the son of two AT&T employees whose sister and brother-in-law also worked for the company. He was a proud AT&T brat. At every turn, his father urged him to stick with the company. To him, the company wasn't a job; it was a way of life. In today's economy, the enticements will probably need to be different from the cradle to grave care these businesses once promised. Fixing our fractured world of work starts with figuring out what those enticements will be. We can forge the psychological contract of this new era. Corporate America can't demand the commitment without offering its workers an equal commitment in return. It just doesn't work. Unlike machines, human workers don't perform just because we're told to.
Again, the education of a person who is in the lower ranks is task oriented. The education of a person who's supposed to rule and or be a C-suite person is about governance. They are not related. They're not the same. If you learn governance as a small person who's supposed to be doing tasks, you don't do the task. You innovate the task. You say, well, that's a better, terrible way to do this. Why don't we do it like that? You're not taught to think in that obtuse way. The person who's taught to think that way cannot think task oriented. The two need each other to survive. And what has happened in this example is someone who was trained to be the monkey, right? do as I say, when I do it like this, don't separate from
Mhm.
that, has moved into a position where he's supposed to care for all those people,
Yes.
and he's still doing it like this because someone else, Elon Musk, someone else, da 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 da, someone else
Mhm.
told him behave like this. And he felt so comfortable in that instruction that he gifted it to the entire company beneath him,
Mhm.
not realizing it was the poison that fed his end. So
Mhm.
it sounds awful when we say things like this, but the truth is there is a vast difference in the type of education you receive at the top of the ladder and the bottom of the ladder. And they often do not teach the crossover.
Wow. Andrea says, I'm reading his memo and wondering how AT&T got 75% of their most almost is it 100 million? Because I think it says here that 900,000 people, I'm sorry, 99,000 were, wow, 99,000 workers cared enough to respond to the memo. She's absolutely right. That in itself is impressive. AT&T as a business may tank, but those employees will remain. Donette says young people are not playing with people in power. People are not just staying at the same jobs until retirement anymore. They know their worth and are willing to walk away to protect their mental health. Right? It's a lot, David. Monica says my coworkers and I have had this exact conversation. They need us to be the forefront of care, support, and customer service. The bosses are non-caring and crude. If we leave, it will crumble.
I want to submit that the American ideology is one built on hope. That is to say that before the internet, before this and the other, one hoped, right,
Hmm.
that they could one day achieve the role of president of the United States. What do you want to be when you grow up,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
There was one president of the United States for 4 years, maybe for eight, for I mean, how many millions and millions of people on that hope took themselves to school to be politicians? How many millions of people, right? And you see one or two millionaires, a billionaire, and suddenly there's a hope, and people go. The change in hope is that in America, it used to be that one might hope to be the vice president of some company. Now, the hope is one might find something genius and retire forever. That shift, that shift in hope means that the people coming through the workforce now don't care to reach your job.
Yes.
They don't actually care to stay and be loyal.
Hmm.
They're very happy to do that job while they work in the garage at night to try to figure out the thing that's going to make them a billionaire so they
Yes.
never go to work. That's their new hope.
Hmm.
And if enough people drive with that type of hope, then the corporate culture falls. The thing
Hmm.
that you do to balance that is to gift them with all sorts of goodies and joys and things that make it very hard
Hmm.
to want to leave the corporate culture. You
Hmm.
don't send them out in a rage. I mean, like, that just seems antithetical.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing now, and it's working for some and not working so well for others because people are tired. People are exhausted. I have this event, this big back ball event this weekend, and I went to get my nails done at the place where I normally went, but I stopped doing my nails for a long, long time because I was like, it's not a necessary thing. I had to do it for this week, the last 4 weeks actually, because I had things going on. And when I walked into the nail salon, it was empty. And I said, you are one of the most popular nailery. She said people are losing their jobs and they're cutting out doing things like getting their nails done. She said we had never been so empty. And you could see the despair. We don't realize that when people move on, when people are laid off, that it's costing, the hair, the nails, the people are quietly talking about Martha's Vineyard and how some of these houses were up for, rent at the last second, honey, because people were like, we are not coming at $7,000 a week and $13,000 a week and all the other
The
things.
Hamptons are not doing well this season, let me tell you.
Say that again.
The Hamptons are not doing well this season. I
Yeah.
was in Southampton, not doing well.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah, but people are not really talking about it. They're quiet whispers regarding it, right? And so it's been an interesting time for so many people, and we need to be able to have that conversation out loud,
Yes, and did anyone pay attention to the stock market last week?
baby,
Did anybody pay
baby.
attention? I mean, and when we look at the cost, but when we know it's so broken it can't be fixed, is when the
Mhm.
president of the United States fires the woman in statistics for reporting the numbers. Right? I'm going to fire you because I don't like the numbers. Not I see any hope in these numbers changing. I'm going to hire someone who's going to lie to the American public so the stock market is whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is talk about a lack of love for country, a lack of love for people. We live in the place that we described to you a year ago today. We live here, everyone, and I want you to wake up and go outside and go, oh my God, this was
I, I
described to me.
I still remember people saying I was crazy as hell. I still remember them looking and going, no, there's no way.
We
And
were
then
walking down the street, they were
300,000,
barking at us. Yeah, yeah, I remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But here
and
we
now they're
are.
calling asking, okay, what did you do? I'm like, we began preparing well over a year ago. What are you doing?
The state of Texas has been redistricted.
Let's discuss, because that was the next thing. I know we want to talk about the loving segment, but baby, hold on, hold, hold on, David. Listen, and then listen to this. Democrats were staying in a hotel that bomb threats came to, prompting the evacuation. So they're not stopping at anything in this thing, right? Some of the Texas Democrats who left the state in protest of a redistricting bill were temporarily evacuated yesterday from their Chicago area hotel after a bomb threat, according to police and lawmakers. The hotel's in St. Charles, Illinois, west of Chicago. The St. Charles Police Department said first responders arrived at the hotel. They're trying to smoke them out, get them back to Texas.
The Republicans in Texas sent out arrest warrants for them.
Yes, yes, yes. And then Donald Trump, the president, says the FBI may have to get involved in locating and arresting Texas Democrats who fled the state to block GOP redistricting efforts backed by the president. Dozens of Texas Democrats fled the state on Sunday, August 3rd, to block House Republicans' proposed redraw of the congressional map. The move has left the chamber without the two-thirds quorum needed to vote on the new maps, and Republicans have attempted to bring Democrats back to the state by signing civil arrest warrants and mobilizing state troopers. Governor Greg Abbott also ordered the Texas Rangers to launch an investigation into possible bribery charges related to how the Democrats are paying for their quorum break, alleging that anyone who financially assisted them in leaving the state could be. Do you understand where we are in these United
And
States right now?
when we discuss the unconstitutionality of all of this, first of all, one does not have to show up for their vote. They don't have to show up for the vote, right? People don't show up for votes all the time. You may censure them if they do something which is you are not by law forced to go to the room and vote. You can say we will not. We will all abstain from this vote,
So why
right?
did they leave the state if all they can say was we upstate? Because people
Because there's no well because
at
we
the federal
legally.
level, people vote remotely all the
That's
time.
right.
So
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 what
what's
they're
happening
saying
here?
is they're making a stance and saying we will not register a vote for this because we think it's so unconstitutional and illegal in the first place.
I get that. I get
So
that.
they're
So they
saying
could have
so if
done
you
that.
say I
But
voted
why did they
abstention,
leave? If they
because
if
if
they
you show up, you can have the vote, and if you vote in abstention, the Republicans win. So if you're in the House when the vote takes place, you are registered as a person on the floor. You can move forward with the vote.
hear what I'm just hear what I'm saying to you. Why
Yes,
did they leave the state? They didn't have to show up to the house, right? They did what they were supposed to, but why did they end up leaving the state?
because
Were
they
they
realized they had
concerned that
these
they were going to
nutty
be forced to
people.
go?
They had these nutty people who were going to grab them from wherever they were and bring them to the house.
This is where we live right now.
This is the place. This is the same place where we're talking about having alligators eat people in Florida who we disagree with. This is the same place. This is the place that we talked about a year ago and 6 months ago. This is the place where even in our local policies, we have these crazy things that happen. This is the place. Welcome to the new dystopic version of America that is without the law we are founded on. We are building a ballroom on the edge of the White House to explain what to the world. This is the place.
So here's where I think we are right now. I
Mhm.
think people are willing to die. I think people are at the place where they're now, okay, so this is what we're doing. Because, and then just not talking about it openly. But I do believe people are at the place where they're like, if this is what we're going to be living in, then let's go ahead and dance, shall we? And it's so hard to understand that we're in a space where we're staring civil war in the face in a country that we all love so much, right? That we all thought we had opportunities. Black folks are now saying this was never, and even though we knew it on some level, we thought that if we got all the degrees and if we lived in a certain square footage of home and if we belonged to certain organizations, we would not be on the table. But the people that are losing their jobs, baby, $200,000 a year, 300, because they had been in these career spaces where they thought they were just going to be fine. They're now in such turmoil mentally. It is it's unimaginable. So where do we go from here? What does that look like?
Did you hear the conversation? So there was a transcript of a call between Mitch McConnell and I believe Kevin McCarthy, but I don't want to Kevin. uh, Definitely Mitch McConnell and someone else like that,
Mm-hmm.
in which they ran out that they need to bring back slavery, that
Yeah.
they need to get a religious education in the country so that people are inundated with the understanding of right wing Christian theology.
Mhm.
They need to make sure that women were producing children that were white. Um, but there was an underlying understanding that at this point, Black people will not engage with you. And so this issue was that what do you do with the brown people? Because the brown people, not only are they not engaging, but they're teaching through their movement other groups of people how to disengage with you. And that was a very scary thing for this phone call. And so there were all these plans. And this was in 2022 when this
Mhm.
phone call happened, right? Okay, so here we are today, 2025, and a lot of these things about immigration and ICE as a secret police. We have a secret police, everyone. They're called ICE. They're masked people who are citizens from the streets who've been recruited to just pluck people up out of the road with no explanation and no truth and no real law and just unalive or disappear them. We have reports of planes that go over the ocean and come back. The plane never landed yet, it comes back empty. Why do you need a cargo plane which is able to open up in the middle of the air if you're not dumping people into the ocean? Right? These are the reports from other countries coming back about what the cruelties of America, what's happening here. And so I want us to not be thinking that we live in la la land and that everything is okay. Everything is not okay. Everything is not okay. And so if we go into life and wake up in the morning, we say, everything is not okay. What do I do to prepare myself? What is the next steps for me? And how do I keep my eyes wide open to see
Mhm.
that the place that I live in has become Nazi Germany just
Mhm.
before the last Reich? How do I look at this place and say, and I don't want us to think that this is dramatic because if we just look at what's going on, secret police, government who disobeys the law, we have people who are child rapists confessed coming out who just get pardoned by the president so his name doesn't appear on things. We're being distracted. We have a president of the United States who is walking on top of the White House speaking gibberish to people, and we just move along like nothing's wrong. uh, we are living in a place which is very scary for the rest of the world to observe. Are any of us making the movements that we need to make to secure ourselves as though we were looking history in the
In
face
the
today?
face. Yeah, yeah. I have a friend that sends me a whole lot of information um, about what's really going on in the country. And the more she sends, and the more I read, and the more I go down the rabbit hole, I'm saying to myself, are any of us safe? Are any of we are in these wonderful roles right now, and we believe we're okay, and but are any of us really safe? It's a
Well, and
question
then
to ask
the
ourselves.
next question is the answer is no. We know that answer. No, no one is really safe. The thing is, what is beginning to happen now is that poor white people who trusted wealthier white people to save them are realizing that they are the menu for lunch. And they're realizing that they were never meant for this goodness, and that again they have been tricked and bamboozled, and that even if their true hate is people of a different skin or hue or color, they have to deal with the beast on the table currently, which is the fact that their own people are shooting
Hmm.
them in the face.
Hmm.
And I think what Democrats, what minority groups need to do is go and collect those people who have been disenfranchised, who were MAGA Republicans, and bring them into the fold, teach them something, and send them back out to
They
say,
would those Democrats though would have to agree on something, right? Because even within the Democratic Party, they're so fractured. Just had a really good conversation with Congresswoman Madeline Dean. That's going to come out soon. We're editing it, just to make sure we have all the things in place. But one of the hard questions I asked her, because she was talking about the fact that the other side. I said, but let's be clear. There are some Democrats who just didn't show up. I think part of what's happening in Texas is because of Jasmine Crockett, right? She's been so vocal and viscerally so, and didn't have a whole lot of people backing her up. And she was saying within the Democratic Party, they were telling her to shut up and sit down and not say anything.
I
So
will
who
say
protects
that,
the people other than the people themselves?
right. So, what is different about the Republican Party and MAGA's relationship is that MAGA had numbers. The opposite is true in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has alt-right, left ideology within the Democratic Party. They don't hold numbers. So when we want to talk about things like inclusivity and trans rights and humanism and other, we're talking about a very small portion of the population that we believe should be treated with equality and love under the law,
Yeah.
right? That is one or two, or sometimes counted as 3% of the entire population of America. On the opposite, when we fight hard for those liberties and those truths and those this and the other on message as a whole democratic base, we end up losing the MAGA alt right person who does make up 30% of the country. So the numbers game does not match in a fair fight. What Democrats have to do is set aside alt left ideology as a public forum, do it quietly, put it in the bag, just
Yeah.
put it into the bill, make it happen. Shut up about it in front of the masses of people that you have to fight because there's a numbers game you're going to lose though.
Yeah.
Focus on the message with clear messaging. We are not a dictatorship. No kings. That message there, we believe that poor people have the right to eat, right? Simple messaging. Stay in that lane. Do not diverge off into these other tangents of we also believe that you should be able to wear a ball gown at midday. We don't need to talk about that right now. Let that
Yeah.
come later.
Yeah.
Republicans have a wonderful messaging campaign, and the MAGA Republicans even better one. They stay on task. We are racist. Period. The end. We don't do anything else, right? And that's fine. Great. That message resonates. I understand it. So with people like um, um, our Texas representative and now what's happening in Texas. What we're looking at is a messaging crisis where the people of Texas do not like the message. Many of them, Democrats, don't like the message. They're not with it, but they're also against the MAGA. Instead of us constantly talking about what we are against, we need to say what we are for in a
Yeah.
clear and concise message. We are for democracy. We are for humanities. We are for your survival. We are for your freedom.
Yeah.
We're for, those are the messages. And I think what is being said to people and what needs to happen within the party is they need to come together to that message and they need to leave the alt on every side alone. Come back to the middle, focus on the middle, stay in the middle. That's where the numbers are. That's how you win an election. When you win the election, you can come over here and talk about these things over here to the alt left.
Right.
Yeah.
Viola says the best cheese is made in Wisconsin. No one to work from former Speaker Ryan. We're seeing whole communities empty because people are afraid to show up to go to the market or afraid to. So the vibrancy, so there's a strong undercurrent happening in so many places. And I keep telling people this unconcerned, and maybe Black people are just showing up unconcerned and still going on vacation, doing all the things that they're doing, recognizing that, they're just not engaging. Let's continue to not engage. I believe at this point, everybody should be engaged on some level, whether you talk about it or not. We've had that dialogue. All right. So we've done we didn't even get into, let's describe one. Let's talk about one thing.
Yes.
That's lighthearted.
Is there lighthearted news today?
Just
Is
hold
there,
on.
is there lighthearted news?
Let me give you something. Lord have mercy. And I don't know. The happiest people in the world live by these 10 realistic principles. 1, human are social beings. Build genuine relationships with good people and let that fuel your life. 2, stop comparing yourself to others. 3, money does not equal happiness. 4, achievements do not lead to sustainable happiness. 5, sweating equal happiness. Our moods are determined by our hormone levels, which in turn is optimized by exercise. I love that you walk everywhere. That's why listen, you'll never be but a certain size. 7, practice minimalism. You don't need more stuff. 8, everything is temporary. 9, stop living in fear. We spend so much of our lives in fear of the future. And 10, giving is happiness. Giving is receiving happiness. It's the kind of happiness you cannot find anywhere else. Give as much as you can. Number 10. 11, social media is a lie. People on display only display their highs on social media. Don't compare your reality to the meticulously filtered display of their lives. A friend of mine put up on social media the other day that she wanted to talk about some things that was going on in her life, but the person she wanted to talk to seemed to have their life all together. And I wrote back and I said to her, what you see is almost certainly not what is. There
I
are
know.
people dealing with all kinds of things. They just choose not to talk about it, right? Or they choose not to have that conversation with you. But I'm telling you, I have never spoken to so many people who were so distressed and distraught. They can't sleep. They can't figure it out. And I believe psychologically, this was meant to happen. Right after the president won the election, Elon Musk came out and said it's going to be a hard time for every American. You're not going to know which way to turn. Another one said, and I'm looking at his face, everything is going to be disrupted and you all have to get ready for it. And I think on so many levels, we believed it couldn't happen. So when it began happening, folks were like, oh my God, oh my God.
Not we, they, they.
Because we
Mhm.
knew.
We talked
We
about
knew.
it.
Yeah, we did.
It's not
We
me,
did.
not me.
We did. We talked about it. And it had people, this can't be. We have three levels of government, three branches of government. I even asked Madeline Dean about that. I said, look, we have three branches of government, and you have judges who are standing up in your words, these were her words, to what is being done in the country. I said, but the government is ignoring the judges. So, hello, what are we doing?
There was the faulty clause because
Yes.
we got the marshals in the hands of the executive branch.
And
But
I
when it,
also, and the judges are being threatened, and one of their sons were killed, and like all the things.
yeah,
This is not,
I
some pie in the sky stuff.
I resonate with what you just read about these principles of happiness. I recently posted a video called "I Don't," and it was received widely and well. But it speaks to this manifesto, if you will, often, which is you have to get to know me and not what you
I
think it
do.
is, right? Well, you come up with this what you do, right? I'm not interested in telling you. I do a lot of things in the world, this and the other, but what I'm interested in you understanding about people, about me, about anybody, is who are you? And so what they're saying in here is stop worrying about the things you have in your house. Who are you? Stop worrying about, the neighbor outside of what their achievements are. Who are you? Stop talking about, what's happening on social media and saying, who are you? And so if we walk around with the ideology of I don't ascribe to all of these
Yeah,
other sorts of things. I don't
yeah,
do all of this craziness. I
yeah,
don't engage in these other places. I
yeah,
exist as a person
yeah,
bathed in humanities who's interested in that. Then I'll have a longer life because all of the things which would call toxicity in my body don't exist because I don't. Right? And
Amen, my brothers.
so I think
Amen.
it's a message that is permeating throughout the world. It's one that felt right to share at that time. But
Mm-hmm,
I think it's true that you can't. Um,
mm-hmm,
one of the blessings of, and we get back in full circle, right? One of the
mm-hmm,
blessings of the old way of teaching people how to care for others, who made really good leaders, the
mm-hmm,
leadership academy, if you will,
mm-hmm.
was that it taught you that what was important was the humanities in a
Amen.
person. And originally, when even the robber barons built their big corporations with railroads, there was a level of humanities in housing, clothing, feeding,
Mm-hmm,
the people who worked for them. There was a level of humanities in our Constitution, in the writing of
mm-hmm,
our Articles of Federation, Confederation. These humanities are what makes civilization civil.
mm-hmm.
It's what allows a community to become communal. And if we remove humanities from life and we are left with this bleak and ugly understanding of how things go, we suddenly start comparing ourselves to the
Mm-hmm.
wall. Am
Yeah.
I doing as well as you name it?
Yes. So
Am I
and so.
worthy of?
Do I have a boat? Do I have a this? Do I have a that? The friend that I was talking to, she says, I love how simplistic your life is because
Yeah.
every damn thing is temporary.
And the first thing
Everything.
is in the lover segment, are you in love with you?
Yes.
And if you are not in love with you, you can't be in love with anybody else.
Amen.
You can't share what you don't have. Your
Amen.
cup cannot overflow because it's
Amen.
still empty.
Yeah.
And so, this conversation, this steering of thought, this how do you prepare yourself is the first
Hmm.
discover
Hmm.
how do I love me so that I can
Or we were
love
taught that it was
others.
conceited to love ourselves. We were taught that it was conceited to see our own selves before we see anybody else. You see what I'm saying?
I
And so now we're
see.
like, I'm not conceited. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Some people are so overworked and accomplishing nothing. And all they're doing is building cortisol in their bodies and just ripping themselves apart. They look up, they have heart attacks, they have strokes, they have this, they have that, all the things, you know? And so, but never mind all of that. I'm making sure I'm in church 400 hours a week after working 700 hours a week. You know, we're trying to do and be for everybody, where there is joy in just sitting still and
You
taking
know,
in the silence and finding the
I,
gratitude.
yeah. And if you need a tool, I remember someone saying to me a long time ago, and I use this now, Deonta Sharon. Whenever I want to leave social media for a period, because I need to get myself together, I'm like, I don't need to post anything. When you start feeling anxious about what you're going to put up
Propose
today,
right. Mm-hmm.
the words should be posted. The quiet is kept for a space.
Yes.
Post that. And when you feel the space is over, come back.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, allow there to be a space. Go gather
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Get up in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. Do not listen to the radio. Do not turn on
Yep.
your phone. Try to The first thing you do when you get up is you sit in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in silence and say, thank you.
Yep.
Loudly. You don't have to be thankful yet. Just say it. Say, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Touch the things next to your bed. Thank you for waking me up today. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you, chair. Thank you, wall. Thank you, house,
Yep.
for roof, for supporting me. Thank you. Get in the water. Drink some water. Intention your water.
Yes.
And then breathe. I
Yes.
promise you, you'll be on the road to self love then because you've
Yes.
started by waking yourself up in love.
Mm-hmm.
If you wake yourself up in chaos and in manicness and depressive news and whatever else, the rest of your day is set for you. Please wake yourself up with gentility. Live that
Mm-hmm.
soft life first.
Yes.
So if I can give you anything about love in today's segment of loving, love you.
Yes. And if I can add to that,
Mm.
you never have to defend yourself when you spend your whole life as a giver and taking care of people. The minute they send someone for you, those people will rise up out of the ashes and say, not this one. But if you are self serving, self absorbed, and all the other self contained things that we do, when people come for you, no one's going to come and support you. So live a life of giving. Not the giving so that you can show it to the whole world, but just give because it's a simple thing to do. Just give, you know,
Except for at your detriment. The
towards your
minute
good.
you
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the minute you
Yeah.
find yourself giving and you're sacrificing what you don't have, and
My
I want you,
my behind did not say sacrifice. I said give. So just
yeah, there
simply
you go.
give.
In order to give, your
Mhm.
cup has to be full.
Well, yes.
What's in my cup is for me. What overflows is for you.
Amen.
My
Amen.
cup overfloweth. I give.
Yeah.
My cup is empty. Wait a minute. The bank doesn't have any. Not yet.
I gotta lay down for a minute. There's nothing to give. Oh my gosh. I just love having these conversations with you. Thank you. We really didn't get into love is, but the community that we're in right now dictates that we speak to the things that are most detrimental to us, are most impacting to us and to our lives, and that we continue to stay as focused and as learned as we possibly can, because so many things are shifting along the way that it's hard to keep up. And sometimes you just don't have to keep up. Just take a whole break from all of it and say, this is what I'm not doing today. It's
Let me give some homework to the listeners today. Can
Yes,
we
go
give
ahead,
some
darling.
homework is to speak to those around you, to your neighbors, to your friends, to your loved ones, to those you don't
Mhm,
even like, and say, what
mhm,
are you doing about the moment that we are living in? What are you doing? Just start the conversation. I don't need an answer, but what are you doing
mhm,
about the moment we are living in today? Do you see the moment? Are you aware
mhm,
of what's happening? What are you
mhm.
doing about it? I think that social responsibility we keep with one another is how we survive moments like
Mm,
this. And
yes.
so my homework would be for all of us to go to the neighbors, to the friends, to the hallways, to the person at the
Mhm,
desk, to the people we see on the street, and say,
mhm,
what are you doing about this?
mhm, mhm. Yeah. And David, you can see it. So the other day I was out on the street and I watched someone drive around me, drive through two cars, on the wrong side of the street, then drove around a car that was making a left, not record. The car almost hit it, and then just drove through more. And I was saying to myself, this is someone who has completely gone over to the other side of sanity, just did not care, drove through the
Exactly.
red lights. We are really, really going through it. And it's causing so much damage to the people who are driving the proper way and doing what they're supposed to do. And I started to record and I was like, I don't even want my husband to see, because that's what happened to him the other day, right? People have just completely lost it. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We are okay. I can't even say we're going to be. There are going to be some lives lost. There's going to be some things going on because we've allowed ourselves to get here. Um, Congresswoman Dean has a lot of hope for us. You know, she has some hope for us. But we talked transparently, and I gotta get that up and out. Season 3 finale is out already. It is Timothy Welbeck from Temple University, who has written a whole classroom syllabus on Kendrick Lamar. He's a civil rights attorney. Go listen to that on Substack, Spotify, and on Apple. There is a pop-up merch sale for my stuff on Sunday, August 10th at the Wafe. Sarita Scott will be there to help you, walk through your hair. Any tips that you have for that, we'll be selling the merch. And on Saturday, I'm doing the Big Black Ball with Mr. Man Frisbee as one of the influencers, fashion influencers, to help raise money for the Achievers Ball for young people. I don't do anything randomly, y'all. I don't have time to randomly show up and just be about showing up. So it's always, helping other people. And so I'm donating one of my outfits that I created to his Big Black Ball. And I'm really looking forward to that. They can do whatever they want to do with it, because at this point I've decided that all those things I have created, they can have it. Have at it. It is what it is. This episode, I have a hot show tomorrow. Tune in, honey, tune in. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. David, thank you, my darling. Always a pleasure. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Hoo-cha, 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 hoo-cha. I know y'all are still watching me. God, I'm leaving now. Bye-bye.